I want to tell you about a simple idea which, if you can put it into practice, will help you do the very best work of your life, and even more importantly, from my perspective, build the best relationships of your career. In order to explain the idea, I want to tell you a simple story about a time when my boss criticized me. I had just started working at Google, and I had to give a presentation to Google's founders and the CEO. I walked into the room, and there in the corner was Sergey Brin, one of the founders, on an elliptical trainer in toe shoes. And there was Eric Schmidt, the CEO, with his head so deep in his computer doing email, it was like his brain had been attached to the machine. And like any normal person in this situation, I felt a little bit nervous. How in the world was I supposed to get their attention? Luckily, the business that I was leading, AdSense, was on fire. And when I said how many new customers we had added over the last couple of months, Eric's head jerked up out of his computer to the extent it's possible to come to a screeching halt on an elliptical trainer. Sergey came to a screeching halt. And Eric said, "What do you need to keep this going? Do you need more marketing resources? Do you need more engineers?" So I'm feeling like the meeting went all right. In fact, I'm feeling like a genius. And so as I left the meeting, I passed my boss, and I'm expecting a high five or a pat on the back or a good job or something. And instead she says to me, "Why don't you walk back to my office with me?" And I knew I had screwed something up. I wasn't quite sure what it was, but I was sure I was about to hear about it. And as we started walking, my boss, who was Sheryl Sandberg, told me about the things that had gone well in the meeting, not in a feedback sandwich kind of way, but in a genuine way. In fact, in a way that actually taught me something. There were things I hadn't realized that had gone well. But of course, all I wanted to hear was what I had screwed up. And eventually, Sheryl looks at me and she says, "You said a lot in there. Were you aware of it?" And I kind of breathed a sigh of relief, because if that was all it was, who really cared? I had a tiger by the tail. And I kind of made a brush-off gesture with my hand, and I said, "Yeah, I know, it's kind of a verbal tic. It's no big deal, really." And then Sheryl said, "I know a really good speech coach. Google would pay for it. Would you like an introduction?" And again, I made this brush-off gesture with my hand. And I said, "It's just a verbal tic. It's really no big deal. Didn't you hear about all these customers? I'm busy. I'm too busy for a speech coach." And Sheryl stopped at that moment. She looked me right in the eye, and she said, "When you say every third word, it makes you sound insecure and stupid." Now, she has my full attention. And some people might say it was mean of Sheryl to say I sounded stupid and insecure. But if she hadn't said it to me just that way, I wouldn't have heard it. I wouldn't have listened. I would have made that brush-off gesture again, and I wouldn't have gone to see the speech coach. Now, she wouldn't have said it that way to somebody else on her team, but those were the words she had to use in order to get through to me in a real way. And because she said it to me just that way, I did go see the speech coach. And when I did, I realized Sheryl wasn't exaggerating. I really did say every third word. And this was news to me because I had been giving presentations for my entire career. I had always given presentations. I had raised $35 million giving presentations. I thought I was pretty good at it. And so this got me to thinking two things, really. One, why had nobody told me for my whole career? It was like I had been walking around with a giant hunk of spinach between my teeth and nobody had told me. And secondly, what was it that Sheryl did that made it so seemingly effortless for her to give me that feedback? When I thought about Sheryl and what kind of boss she was, I realized she did two things that made it much easier for her to give me the feedback. The first was that she cared about me, not just as an employee, but as a human being. She cared personally, and not just about me, but about all of her direct reports. She really went the extra mile to show that she was concerned for our well-being. For example, when I moved from New York to California to take the job at Google, and I didn't really know anybody out here in California, Sheryl invited me, knowing that I love to read, to join her book group. And when I had a family member fall ill, Sheryl said to me, "We've got you covered. I have a plan for who's going to cover you. Go be with your family. Don't count it as vacation time. This is the most important thing in your life." And that was the kind of thing she did for everybody, not just me. So she cared personally about all of us. But at the same time, when we screwed up, she was never afraid to challenge us directly. She told us in no uncertain terms, in a way that left no room for ambiguity, that we had screwed up. So she was willing to challenge us directly.